I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we move on to public participation, we would like to take a few moments to honor one of our board members who is stepping down for personal reasons and as well as she's moving. She's on the phone tonight. And Teresa, would you like to go ahead?
Hi, Cheryl. Can you hear me?
Yes, but it's so unnecessary.
Do that.
That's Cheryl. How long have you been a board member, Cheryl?
5.5 years.
5.5 years. That's a long time to be a board member. Just want to recognize you, your years of service, and anybody who knows Cheryl knows how dedicated she is as a board member. Some may think that the time we spend is here at the board table, and that's not the case. I know you've put countless hours in. You like data, and I know you do a lot of analysis on facts and data to come up with the best decision that you can for all the students and the district. So I want to take this time to thank you for that. I truly respect everything you've done. I think I think I can say become friends over 5.5 years. We bounce a lot of things off of each other. Cheryl is our policy person. Of course, she has a background in law, so that's a great job for her. I'll definitely miss that piece of it. But just want to let you know that you have big shoes to fill. Definitely be missed, truly be missed. And I did reach out to somebody you probably know pretty well, Tom, and he's got a few words that he wanted me to share from him and your son and daughter. He says, "We are so very proud of Cheryl and have enjoyed watching her in action these years as a board member. She uniquely combines deep empathy and an overriding desire to do the right thing for the district with an uncompromising work ethic and skill set, honed as an attorney, always focusing on facts and data. Her work has created a true legacy for both the district as well as for Sam and Ben by being a role model for unselfishly engaging to help the community rather than sitting on the sidelines. Our family often refers to true leaders as those who build bridges for others rather than themselves. It has been a privilege to watch a master bridge builder at work." So I just want to thank Cheryl for all of her time and to enjoy her next adventure in life. So would anybody else like to make any comments?
You just want to pass the phone? Thank you.
Oh, goodness.
We just want to say thank you, Cheryl, for your time on the board. I know that we've all been through a lot together. I think our board is a very collaborative board at this time. We appreciate the work and the time that you've put in, especially with your legal expertise. And I think I speak on behalf of the board when I say that, we appreciate your service and we wish you all the best in the future, in your future endeavors.
I have one other thing.
Thank you.
Hold on, Teresa had something else.
Just want to let you know, Cheryl, it's about 6:07 right now. You should have something in your inbox from several members of the board and the administration, teachers, etc. So be sure to check that out.
Boy, you guys kind of really set me up, and that doesn't happen very often. Thanks, Lord.
Well, we appreciate you hanging in there. I know it's been a little bit difficult for you lately, but we appreciate your dedication. And if there's anything else you'd like to say, we'll let you have the floor. If not, we'll move on.
Well, yeah, no, I wasn't expecting that at all. I'm going to wring my husband's neck. But, yeah, that was nice. I'm not thrown off my game very often, but that did. First of all, I want to say that it's truly been an honor to serve on the board for the past 5.5 years in this phenomenal school district. During that time, I've seen a lot of changes and transitions throughout the district. On the board side, I've worked with 3 different board groups, new district leadership team members, and, new building administrators and teachers, and it's, The one thing I think, as they say, the only thing that is constant is change. But I think there is one constant throughout all the change, and that's, board governance and the roles that we play with the administration. And we learn that, as new school board members, and then, we have that mandatory training, and then we have, retreats and annual conferences. And I think, the key thing that makes a board work and work well with the superintendent and his or her team is that our role is to set the district's mission, vision, goals, policy, and monitor the end results. And I think not only this board, but past boards have done that very well, but I think this board does as well. And then the superintendent and his or her team sets the objectives, the action plans, and the procedures, and then they implement them to achieve the district mission, vision, and goals. And I know a lot of educators or administrators certainly know all of that jargon. But, the ISB uses a balcony metaphor to describe it. You didn't shut me up for very long, did you, guys? But they use the metaphor that the board is in the balcony where they can see the whole dance floor, focusing on the big picture and broad perspective to a goal. But I like to view how we all work together from a team sports perspective, and I've often mentioned it to several people, but I'll mention it again. For example, in a professional football team's organization, so I'll use like a professional football team, the school board is the general manager sitting in the stands, and the superintendent and the administrators are the coach and assistant coaches who figure out how to win. The teachers and staff are the players on the field, effectively executing the plays towards success. And without the teachers and the players, or the coaches and the players' combined talent, expertise, and commitment, our district would never have a winning team. And so these are my last comments, but, I just want to drive home, the key to success, I think, for the board going forward as you select a new person and you work together to keep that in mind. And so with that in mind, if all those pieces don't fit together, then we won't have a winning team. But I think the district does have a winning team. And as a board member, for several years, I'm so proud of, every continuous improvement. I know the teachers don't like to hear that word. It's kind of a buzzword, but it's true. It's been continuous in actions taken that have improved the district that have been implemented over the last 5 years. To meet our mission statement, which probably everyone in the room, knows, but empowering all students to reach their maximum potential. Okay, that's wrong. I know it's individual potential, but I was outvoted on that mission statement word choice, and I'm not sure I ever got over it. So and I might actually even like both words together, like maximum individual potential, but, I think maybe that's just me. Anyway, I digress. But continuing with the metaphor, if you don't mind, the coaches and players made an incredible effort. I mean, just incredible effort the past year to work and rework and implement many requested game changes by the general manager. And that was great. That was very impressive. And it was done very quickly. And then came COVID-19. And yet again, the team had responded not once, but now twice, to continue to educate our students so they can reach their maximum individual potential. So, kidding. But that's just really incredible, and just the quick response time in the spring and going online and pulling it off, when they're sitting at home with, kids and, a lot of families are 2 educators, it was a lot. And that was impressive. So the way I see it, I will stop with the metaphor, I promise, after this, is that they have thrown more Hail Marys than I can count. and it's good. It's great. So with that success, sprinting towards that end zone, I think the board plays, an important role for sure, setting the direction of the district and monitoring results, and I think that's been great. But I think the board has to remember that it's because of the hard work and dedication every day in the trenches with our students, the administrators, the teachers, and the staff, that's what the shoulders, I think, that the district stands on to have built the reputation over the years as the best school district in Central Illinois, if not downstate Illinois. So families choose our school district due to the excellent education that they provide, each and every day, both in and out of the classroom with extracurriculars and club activities. And, our family was one of them that chose the district, and it was the best choice we could have made. And it's just something that I think that the coach, the assistant coaches, and the players, the superintendent, all the building and the district leadership, administration, and the building administrators, and then the teachers and staff. I'm not sure, I can't speak for them, but I'm not sure they hear that enough. And if any one of those pieces of the puzzle or the team fail, then the district fails. So I look forward, and so anyway, I think I can speak on behalf of the board to any administrators and teachers that are there, that we appreciate you. And, we know what you're doing. And, it's all about the kids, right? And that's what you do day in, day out. So, very proud of you guys. And I look forward to following your continued success, albeit from a little further away than in the stands. So good luck.
Thank you, Cheryl. That was for you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Very well said. Thank you, Cheryl. We're going to move now on to public participation portion of the meeting with the superintendent's report first. So, Dr. Dearman.
All FOIA requests have been satisfied. No new ones have come in, and that's the extent of my report this month.
Okay, at this time we'll move on to public comments. If there's anyone who wishes to address the board, if so, please raise your hand. If you could come up, please, and you'll need to sign. But before we do, I'm going to read a statement that the board reads before every public participation portion. Before addressing the board, I'd like to remind you of our guidelines. Per board policy 2.230, we ask that when addressing the board, you identify yourself and please be brief. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes. The speaker is asked to please conduct oneself with respect and civility towards others. It is advisable that individuals under the age of 18 who wish to address the board be accompanied by his or her parent or guardian. The board typically does not engage in two-way conversations during the public participation portion of the meeting. Any necessary follow-up response from the board will be addressed at a later time by the administration. It is recommended that to be respectful of others and to protect confidentiality, complaints against individual students, individual staff members, or board members, either named or unnamed, be presented in closed session or be put in writing, signed by the person or persons making the charges, and delivered to the Board of Education Secretary. At this time, I would like to ask anyone who wishes to address the board to come forward and sign the public participation sheet. It should be at the podium. Is that correct? Okay. Then each speaker may come to the podium one at a time and begin by speaking into the microphone, stating their name and their topic that they will be addressing. So at this time, let's have the first person please come forward.
Hi, my name's Annalie Huntington, and I'm here to talk about a request for a second section of 4th grade at Dunlap Grade School. Good evening. The next speaker, Melissa Swanson, and I are going to kind of tag team this because we have several points to make. but we are speaking as the representatives for the fourth grade parents of students, that's okay. We're speaking as the representatives for the fourth grade parents of students at Dunlap Grade School. We have been able to make contact with 30 out of the 39 total students, some new, some on a wait, or some current, some on the wait list, but all are in support of what we are advocating for. We have rising concerns regarding the current plan for having only one section of fourth grade at DGS this year. We are here this evening to express our collective request to add a second section of fourth grade for the 2020-21 school year. The current fourth grade class is at max capacity with 30 students. In addition, there are 9 students on the wait list for DGS's fourth grade. It is our understanding that there was a vote in February of 2020 to have only one section of fourth grade at DGS. However, please consider that back in February, when the fourth grade section addition was rejected, there were far fewer students on the wait list. Additionally, this was prior to COVID-19 and our understanding of the health risks associated with the virus. We are asking for this decision to be revisited and for the board to vote to add a second section of fourth grade at DGS. In our Zoom discussion with Dr. Dearman on Monday, he stated that he could not argue with the validity of our argument. Here are the reasons to vote to approve a second section. Reason number 1, the number of students on the wait list. There are 30 fourth grade students with an additional 9 students on the wait list. That's 23% of the total DGS fourth grade population who have to go to schools other than their home school. This compares to Hickory Grove, as shared by Matt Andrews, where of the 125 students in each kindergarten, first, and second grades, approximately 6 to 7 students per grade are being bused to other schools. This is only 5% of those populations in each of those grades. The ratio of DGS fourth grade students being sent to other schools far exceeds the ratios at other schools within the district. The numbers alone justify a second section. It is also very important to note that DGS has the physical space for a second section at fourth grade. The physical space situation at Hickory Grove is not the same. The fourth grader in the number 1 wait list spot has been on our wait list since January of 2020. He was bused to Ridgeview last year, and the bus stop is more than 3 blocks from his home and picks him up at 6:45 a.m. This is 25 minutes earlier than the other DGS kids on his street. I know this because they're my kids and we live across the street from him. If we don't fix this situation, there are other children who will be faced with the same situation. It is unsafe for these 9-year-old kids to walk 3 blocks to a bus stop in the dark and then have to be on the bus for close to 2 hours each day wearing a mask. This is a lot of additional mask wearing time. Our second reason is the continued staffing impact. This is not new to DGS. This cohort of students has been split into 2 classes every other year. In kindergarten, there were 2 sections, 1 in first, 2 in second, and then 1 last year in third grade. And now we have a total of 39 students, which should justify a second section. The classes behind this cohort are also all 2 sections. So DGS will have a second teacher for fourth grade next year and the years after that. We have also been informed that next year there is no plan to have 2 fifth grade classes, meaning that these 9 impacted students will not get to go to DGS next year either. And we will be in the same situation, asking for a teacher to be added to the staff. This is hard for these students, their families, and the teachers at DGS. More specifically related to the DGS teachers, by making this cohort just 1 class every year, requires the teaching staff at DGS to switch the grades that the teachers are teaching every year. Additionally, once this cohort is through DGS, we will still need 2 classes at each grade level. Let's not wait, but rather address this situation now.
Okay, my name's Melissa Swanson. I have a daughter, Harper Swanson, who should be going to DGS next year. We recently moved from Dunlap to Edwards, and we were super excited about the possibility, given the reputation of DGS. When we heard she was on the wait list, of course, we were disappointed, but we were extra disappointed to know that nothing was being done to address the 9 kids on the wait list. So, to continue on with the rationale behind why a second grade class is important, the third reason is the impact of COVID-19. So as all of you know, the health experts have recommended that we make class sizes as small as possible. We actually emailed a photo of the current plan of the class with the 30 desks in it to all of you. And I think you'll be as shocked as we were when we saw the plan. The kids literally will have no space to move. The desks are very close together, and that's not even with the kids or the chairs in the actual classroom. So we were all very bothered when we actually saw that. It's clear that the setup is not going to be able to recommend or to achieve the recommended social distancing. So we know that the district has said that they will try to meet the social distance recommendations when possible. Well, by creating a second, fourth grade, you will come much closer to meeting those recommendations than the current setup. So adding a second section at DGS is also going to reduce the class sizes at the other Dunlap schools, where the waitlisted children are currently planning to attend or to be sent. So this would also aid in the ability to increase social distance in the other fourth grade classes in Dunlap as well. Adding a second section at DGS benefits more than just DGS students, but multiple families and multiple Dunlap schools. So we're working really hard as families, all of us, to ensure social distancing. It's important to note that we're talking about 9-year-olds who are come into contact with peers in their neighborhoods as well. So just at first tally, we have at least, out of the 9 kids on the wait list, they're coming from at least 4 different subdivisions. So those are 4 more subdivisions that are going to be impacted by kids in different schools. So by busing children out of their homeschool area, there's a greater risk of cross-contamination with Dunlap schools and neighborhoods. And now this next section, it actually has a quote from the DEA building representatives from DGS, Lindsay Brooks and Michelle Weiss. So this is about DGS teacher and staff support. So quote, "The teachers and staff at DGS support our advocacy for our children. They have repeatedly requested that this class be allowed to be 2 sections rather than 1, previously citing class size and composition as reasons to support this. The DEA building representatives from DGS, Lindsay Brooks and Michelle Weiss, are willing to answer any questions you have regarding the class size and composition of this class, but request that it be in an alternate setting to protect the confidentiality of the students involved, as that could detail private information such as academic, behavior, or social emotional interventions and accommodations that students may receive." So in summary, we ask that you strongly consider our collective request to create a second section of 4th grade at DGS. We understand that the school likes to maintain a reserve of funds to ensure solid ratings and be poised to respond to unforeseen capital expenditures. However, the addition of 1 teacher will not deplete the reserves, but rather create a safer and more productive learning environment for all Dunlap 4th graders. The Dunlap School District is a highly desirable school district, and we hope that it can keep this reputation by thinking about the long term and not just the short term. At the end of the day, I know that we are all in agreement that the health and academic achievement of our children is the highest priority. So as with our Zoom meeting, not all of our DGS 4th grade parents and families were able to be here. Some of them are, and we appreciate that. But they do want to express their support. We are all resolute in that support of the requested action to add the second section of 4th grade at DGS. We appreciate your time and your consideration of this request. Thank you from the parents of the 4th grade students from DGS. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board?
Good evening. My name is Shauna Segler, and I am a teacher at Dunlap Middle School. The 2021 school year will be my 19th year in the district. I would like to start off by praising the administration and office staff at Dunlap Middle School. They have worked tirelessly to rebuild the master schedule and hand schedule each and every DMS student. Antonio's leadership and communication skills have been commendable, especially as we are getting ready to start the most difficult school year of our careers. I am very confident that he cares deeply about the safety of his students and staff. Sorry. I was going to send an email to the board instead of speaking tonight so that I could enjoy the last evening of my summer break with my family, but I am honestly not confident that it would have been read. After all, I only received 1 reply to the email that I sent to the members of the board on July 29th, and that was from Dr. Humbles. Please know that I understand what a busy time that was for you all. If you ran out of time to respond on Wednesday, then you should have made it a priority to reply on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or any other day since. If the excuse is that you were too busy and flooded with emails, I'll wait. You done?
If you have, I think it's concerns about individual people. You're not named or.
Nope, I'm not naming anybody.
No, it says unnamed.
Okay. It's the board collectively, so I can't.
Well, typically, issues that have to do with individuals.
Okay, I'll move on to my next topic.
Should go through closed session, and we'll be happy to do that in closed session.
Okay, good. Do I get to attend that?
You can attend to read that portion of your.
Okay, perfect, I will. The concern that brings me here tonight is too great to go unread. Since remote learning sections had to be added to the schedule, we lost many in-person sections, and our class sizes have drastically increased. In one of my in-person literature sections, I have 30 students. I have 15 tables in my classroom, each measuring 5 feet in length. I will have 2 students at each table sitting right next to each other, just like they were on March 12th. It'll be no different. This large class size is a direct result of changing from a condensed schedule to a full-day schedule. Before the schedule changed, there were 2 sections of this in-person literature course, and now there's only 1. There are 52 students taking this particular course, and 22 of those have chosen remote learning. Those 2 in-person sections would have been sitting at about 15 students each. I would have taught my in-person learners in a room with plenty of space to social distance, and I would have taught my remote learners in the afternoon. Teachers have asked about plexiglass barriers for their tables, but we're told that it's just too expensive. I priced out the materials from Menards, and it would cost about $400 to make plexiglass barriers for my classroom tables. My mom and dad offered to purchase the materials and build the barriers, but I wouldn't let them. Teachers should not be spending their own money or their family's money to make their classroom safe. That's your job. I do not want parents sending their kids to school under the false pretense that all guidelines are being followed because they aren't. The CDC defines close contact as 15 minutes or more of exposure at a distance of less than 6 feet. The students in my classroom and many other classrooms in the district will have students sitting within about 18 to 24 inches of each other for 96 minutes. We have seen the pictures of crowded hallways during passing periods that are being shared from local districts that have started school. Can you imagine what the reaction would be to a picture of 30 kids sharing 15 tables with no precautions being taken to separate them? This will be the situation for many, many of our secondary classrooms. The responsibility to find a solution is yours. It's not the building admins, it's not the teachers, it's not Matt's, it's not Megan's, it's not Alyssa's, but it's yours. Thank you for your time.
Would anyone else care to address the board at this time?
Good evening. Dear Dunlap School Board meeting members, sorry. My name is Chrissy Molson, and my address is 11022 North North Trails, Dunlap, Illinois. I am here tonight to ask you how we are going to start the academic year of 2021 with so many unanswered questions. Parents have questions, teachers have questions, students have questions. I have attended July 15th meeting, July 23rd meeting, and I watched July 29th meeting. Yet I still have questions. Where is the transparency? 9 months ago, I stood before you and asked for transparency of this board. Tonight, I ask again. My husband and I have emailed, called, and sent follow-up emails asking for answers. Parents deserve answers to understand how this school year is going to work. Dunlap is an award-winning school district that has been highly praised. We moved to this community specifically for the extraordinary schools. What makes this district great is our teachers. However, we fear that our teachers are going to leave this district because they feel unappreciated by you. You did not appear to value their safety. Do you have PPE to protect them? We don't know. We can't get answers. You've given the appearance that you don't value their professional knowledge or expertise by not consulting them before you made changes to the academic programs last fall. The reason I know this is because I've been watching your actions for the last year and a half. You can publicly say what you want about teachers, but your actions speak louder than your words. Parents are worried about teacher safety. We have all seen the Amazon pages that teachers created asking for classroom supplies. This Team Dunlap is publicly embarrassed. Parents are worried about teacher morale because of your actions. Our teachers protect our students, and if you don't protect our teachers, who's going to look out for our sons and daughters? Thank you so much.
There's no one else that wishes to address the, okay, come on up.
My name is Asti Adnan, and I'm an incoming senior. I've been here before, and I'm here again, as once again it's necessary for the students to speak out, and this time I brought friends. As the Peoria Public Schools have realized, our districts simply do not have the ability to handle full-time, in-person school. Cases are not decreasing in Peoria, and there have been positive cases in our district already. We have neither time nor space to accommodate the precautions necessary to facilitate a safe learning environment. With only 5-minute passing periods, we cannot possibly expect teachers and staff to adequately disinfect classrooms and control hallway traffic flow to reduce the spread of the virus, regardless of the fact that there is a shortage of cleaning supplies and personal protective equipment. Teachers are considered essential workers, yet it seems like we're arming them with squirt guns to handle a burning building. With 8-hour days, we expect our students, even elementary school children, to wear masks consistently and properly for the majority of the time. And lunch is another beast altogether. Even with the best of efforts, lunch cannot be done in a way that maintains social distancing, safety and sanitization, and overall dignity. Safety and health are the utmost priority. Education cannot be done when the teachers and students are sick. There is no doubt that the board has always worked hard for the district, but we had a talented and educated team work to create possible sustainable options that will be safer for the upcoming year. They were asked for their professional recommendations, and yet their research plans were disregarded. Health cannot be compromised, so why was it then? Why were the testimonies and facts given by the teachers, administrators, parents, students, and doctors unacknowledged? A decision affecting the community should reflect the community. Thank you.
Hello, distinguished members of the board and those watching from home. My name is Rafael Davis, and I'm an incoming senior at Dunlap High School. And this year will mark my 8th year in the Dunlap district. And as a student, I have seen our overwhelming successes and our sometimes unfortunate shortcomings. And today, I'm here to talk to you about the fact that I believe today that we are on a cusp of a very avoidable shortcoming that our district could face. So only 4 short years ago, if you guys remember, nearly every sporting team from Dunlap had earned state recognition in its respective programs. However, what's unique about Dunlap is that as a district, we are not only reputable for these athletic feats. A key attribute of Dunlap is valuing both our education as a STEM school and our athletics. Yet the current plan selected for the 2020 to 2021 school year does not aid the longevity of the education and athletics in our district. We must act in a way this year that promotes safety over normalcy, as nothing about the situation is normal in the slightest. As many of you have seen in national news, many sporting teams have returned to the plate to bring back a sense of economic fortitude or a sense of normalcy to our country in its tumultuous times. Yet despite their seemingly unlimited resources, full team rosters have tested positive. 13 out of the 25 Cardinals baseball team members tested positive. The FC Dallas soccer team had been ruled out of play for the Major League Soccer is Back operation. And as many of you have seen, many college sporting associations, such as Pac-12, the Missouri Valley Conference, and Big Ten have postponed their fall sports. Yet unlike these associations with immense funding and immense support from around the country, as a district we have a fraction of the resources. So how can we preserve the health of our staff, students, and families when multi-million-dollar organizations are struggling to contain the virus? If there is no possible way to ensure the safety of those members of the community that attend Dunlap schools, where is the urgency in committing to a full-day option? Why would the health, safety, and recommendations of staff not be taken into account as the utmost priority? Why would we not listen to those teachers' recommendations for the school year, those same teachers that have made this district as good as it can be in both our education and our athletics? So if we continue along this path or course of action as we have for the 2020 to 2021 school year, I believe that our opportunities may dwindle as cases begin to spike again in our region, as you'll hear from Anjali. So if the current plan cannot be redecided, the allowance for a school day that abides by the established science and statistics should at least be reconsidered. Thank you for your time.
Hello, members of the board and all of those watching from home. My name is Anjali Yedavelli. I'm a rising senior, and I've been a student in this district since kindergarten. First, I want to acknowledge the idea that reopening schools has become a favorable one among policymakers and health officials alike for obvious and important reasons. But all of those experts can agree with the following fine print. It depends on the region. Peoria has seen a significant increase in cases since the transition from phase 3 into phase 4, which was expected, obviously, but unlike in other regions in the country and even other regions in the world, Peoria County's general lack of adherence to public health guidelines has worsened this potentially reversible uptick in cases. Governor Pritzker has even visited Peoria within the last couple of weeks and explained that Peoria needed to see change before potentially reverting back to more restrictions. We're only getting worse right now. And that doesn't mean we'll only be getting worse forever, but it just means that we have to change our behaviors in the community before we jump headfirst into this logistically complex and frankly very experimental reopening plan. The 10 to 19 age group especially has been seeing a spike in cases in Peoria, and epidemiological studies from South Korea indicate that children in that very age group can transmit the virus just as easily as any adult can. Other regions in the country may be ready to return to school as normal as they possibly can, but Peoria is just not one of those regions yet. New York saw a remarkable flattening of the curve after its citizens adhered to guidelines and restrictions, and more importantly, didn't rush into irresponsible situations based on the presumptuous desire to go back to normal. I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you're continuing to exhibit behaviors that you exhibited pre-pandemic in a post-pandemic world, normal is not going to come by the snap of your fingers. New York didn't do that, thankfully, and now they are seeing a less than 1% positivity rate. Governor Cuomo announced that New York schools can reopen, though those schools will, at the most, be reopening with a hybrid plan or a fully remote plan. They did the work to deserve that payoff, and truthfully speaking, comparing Illinois, especially Peoria, to New York, or even to other countries like Denmark or New Zealand, is comparing apples to oranges. We are not New York, or Denmark, or New Zealand. And trust me, we all want to go back to normal. I understand that more than anyone. I'm a senior. This is my senior year. All of my traditions are being held up over a cliff. But the point is, we're not ready for it right now, in this moment. So my question is, what makes anyone think that we're suddenly going to be ready for it on August 17th? Thank you.
Hello, respected members of the board. My name is Aryan Paul, and I too am a rising senior here at the high school, and I've been in the district for 13 years. Following what my classmates have said, there have been recent changes in schools based on the situation that we're currently in. For example, a school in Greenfield County, Indiana, opened up their schools full-time recently, and within just mere hours, a student tested positive, and many staff and students had to quarantine. In Gwinnett County, Georgia, over 300 staff and students were tested positives before school had even started for them. North Paulding High School in Georgia, a student had been suspended for sharing a picture on social media of their crowded hallways with limited students wearing masks. There are just so many examples around the United States that just show that the full-day plan is just not feasible and a safer option is necessary. I understand one may refute this argument by saying that it isn't local at all, but there are tons of examples locally that present the same information. For example, Morton District opened their schools up yesterday, and they have 3 students and 2 teachers have tested positive already, and pictures of packed hallways, which is also inevitable here at Dunlap. over the weekend, Peoria Public School District changed their blended plan into a full remote. And this just goes to show that COVID is still a problem locally, but it also shows that it's not too late to consider the health and safety of students and teachers. As the board and many families know, our group started a petition for the board to repeal and reconsider their current decision. At this time, and I do want this on the public record, we have over 1,700 signatures demonstrating tremendous support from our community, urging the board to reconsider. However, we also understand that it's important to look at the numbers that are locally, as those are the numbers that truly matter. So through extensive research, we have found that 1,200 of those signatures are local community members that are impacted by this decision directly. Along with the signatures, we have over 100 passionate comments imploring the board to consider the lives of their children, teachers, and family members when making such an important decision. We would like to leave you with just a few thoughts. As you know, we have a shortage of substitute teachers and lunchroom monitors. I am in no way intending this to be disrespectful or expecting an answer, but would anyone from the board be willing to volunteer for these roles and put yourself in their shoes? Keeping your answer in mind, realize that you're forcing teachers and students in a very similar tough situation. While maybe not legally enforceable, but God forbid if students or teachers get sick or ill, that will be a direct consequence of the current decision. Everything is right in front of you laid out. As members of the community, we would really appreciate it if the board truly listened to our voices and considered our opinions. Thank you for your time.
There's no one else who wishes to address the board. This will conclude the public participation portion of the meeting. The board will now move on to the information and discussion items. School activity accounts reports are included in the packet. Are there any questions? No questions. Next, Mrs. Holzhauser will share an update on the new district office building. Mrs. Holzhauser?
They're going to bring it up here, I think. I wasn't able to print this out. Oh, here it is. It makes me a little bit better. So as anyone, as you were coming in today, or if you have been by here, the district office, we're making great progress on it. You can see that the masonry is being completed. We have the rooftop units up. We have about $361,000 invoiced to date. It's about 40% of the total. We're making great progress. You see the walls were erected. Like I said, the HVAC units have been installed. Masonry is in process. We will start the interior drywall beginning next week. So we'll see the interior start being completed. Furniture has been ordered, and we are still on target to be in the district office the first week in October. So once again, we are coming in under budget at the current time, and we expect to continue that way. And I want to thank the team. I want to also give a shout out to Debbie here. She has been a tremendous help to me. Also to Mike, she has been working with us, I would say daily in some cases. I've talked to her probably several times this week on that, but we're making great progress. I'm very impressed with it, and thank you to the entire team.
Very nice. Thank you very much for the update. We'll look forward to seeing that completed. And also, Debbie, I'd like to reiterate, thank you so much for all the assistance you've given us through this past couple months. Next, Mrs. Bagby and Mr. Andrews will present information regarding the full remote learning plan.
It's very touching.
All right, good evening, while that loads there. We just wanted to give a chance to go over where we're at with remote learning in phase 4 and what that's going to look like, and then how that is going to then look different if at any point in time we have to go full remote learning, and then give a chance for questions and things of that nature at the end. So here is what we've been currently working on, is putting in from the last board meeting the return to school plan. And for in-person, for remote learners, creating student guidance, expectations for that remote learning, just kind of as an overview. And that has been being worked on this week with building administrators and trying to get that plan out as they're communicating, just trying to get an overall plan. So we're going to go through some of the highlights of that here tonight. Guiding principles, when we have put all of this instructional guidance together for our teachers, and providing this remote opportunity for students. The relationships piece has been first and foremost in a lot of the communication and emphasis on the relationships, the SEL component, their social emotional well-being, being the top priority at the beginning of the school year. And especially with students who will be coming into that remote classroom, first and foremost, establishing that classroom community and making sure that is a priority. Is a big priority, not only on the remote side, but also the in-person side of things as well. The continuity and equity, making sure we're still providing a guaranteed and viable curriculum across all grade levels and subject levels. And then also realizing different supports that need to be in place for students in terms of the counseling services that are already available within our schools, and making sure we have a plan not only for our in-person students, but counseling services for our students who will still be participating in their instruction from home. All special education and related services, working with Alyssa, her team, the special ed teachers, and any of the school psychologists, social workers, and motor team, ESL, and making sure that they have an avenue to support our remote learners as well as our in-person learners. And then mental health, SEL focus, that kind of ties into what I talked about before with relationships. We are looking to make sure that is a priority. Had some conversations today about our September 4th Institute Day, and having a remote focus for the teaching staff on PD in terms of assessment, technology and curriculum tools that they can be using for their students, but also having some training and from some mental health professionals in terms of what to look for in our students, how to best support them during this time, and also some self-care and during this time as well through this uncharted time in education. Remote student percentages, just at this point in time, this was as of this morning, running these percentages for each of the buildings just to have a gauge of where we are at each of the levels. Elementary at 36% remote, 64% in person. Middle school 34%, 66% in person. High school 26% remote, 74%, in person. And these numbers, if I run them tomorrow morning, they still could be difference. We are getting quite a few changes as the week has gone on, either last week or this week, and building principals have been, and secretaries and counselors have been working to make all of those adjustments as the week has gone on, working on balancing section numbers, things of that nature, as issues or problems arise.
And
yes?
How long can those changes go on?
Well, right now with the way the language that we're going off of for guidance is that if students or families request that change is made, like legally, they can make that change from remote to in-person learning or in-person to remote learning. And so that's the guiding language that we are going off of at this point in time.
At any time?
Yes.
We explain the process when that's done. Anytime that we're asked if they're able to transition from one setting to the other, and just how it's a delicate balancing act. Just try to educate them and just make sure they know. Of course, we want them to make the decisions that's best for their families, but just knowing we're playing in almost a game that's impossible to completely win when trying to balance both environments.
And so will there be an effort that the remote teachers and the in-person teachers will try trying to stay at the same pace.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, and that is, as we go through some schedules that will be coming forward here, and on Institute days, making sure that teachers have some of that collaboration time to be able to do those things as well. So, yeah, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Chromebook, essential for success. In meeting with some of our teachers and whatnot, Matt and I spent some time online last night with our elementary remote teachers. There's 24 of them. And so we spent time with them last night going over the guidance. It was completely optional, and I believe everyone attended, just a chance for a Q&A, to get additional support, ask their questions, give feedback to the plan or guidance, and things that they needed in order to be successful in their classroom. So we took all of that feedback into consideration and made some adjustments, and some gave some clarification on and helped understand some things as well. One thing that they came from in that is that Chromebook really needing to be essential to success, the school-issued Chromebook. Elementary schools are going to be having their distribution this Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. for all the remote learners only, to make sure that they can get their Chromebook and be ready to go by Monday. The big platforms that are going to be critical to that success, Google Meet for that live instruction that is needed, as well as Canvas, so our platform where they'll be posting all of their materials, assessments, assignments, using Seesaw at the K2 level. I had the wonderful opportunity to do teacher orientation was this week on Monday, Tuesday, and seeing Sarah Solario present Seesaw for some of our new teachers on how to use that. And there was definitely some very adorable 5-year-olds that she showed some examples of in the efforts that they were able to do this past spring, and what they were able to showcase their learning and the processes that they went through to learn. It was very, it was enjoyable to be able to watch what she's been able to do. Yes?
I know that we had talked about technical capabilities and hardware capabilities, and since a lot of these remote teachers will be in their classrooms, correct?
Yes.
Teaching the remote learners. Are we at all concerned about whether or not we have the technological hardware capabilities so that we won't crash, since all of these teachers will be in, unlike spring when they were working from home, they'll be in the building?
That's something that we're going to have to monitor and make sure that not only can they engage with our learners at home, but then those who are in school,
right.
You know, the rest of the percentage that are in person, that they're able to access their devices, because those are going to be ever more important for collaboration in person too.
So we have Hart Technology here today.
Okay.
Their network engineer running a systems test, working with Ben King to give us an idea of where we're at, and then if we want to get to the point where we can do more, what equipment are we going to need, what kind of bandwidth are we going to need, and how do we go about getting those types of things. So that report, I believe, will be in our hands by the end of this week.
Okay, great, thanks.
And in the guidance document that we'll be going out to families here shortly, hopefully tomorrow morning, one of the things that you'll note, which is why we're talking about the essentials, the essentiality of the Chromebook, is that teachers, especially at the elementary level, they won't necessarily be able to help support kids if they're using a device that's not a Chromebook. And then, of course, if they're not signed in through that Chromebook, they cannot help them through GoGuardian, which again is a really big, was a really big help for our Title I summer school teachers. That was one of the points that was stressed very much so from our elementary teachers last night when we were speaking with them.
All right, so all centered around the Chromebook. Moving from there. Teacher expectations, just again, trying to give some of the highlights. As I mentioned before, fostering the relationships with students as the first priority, building the classroom community. And we've been giving teachers some resources, and we have some PD plan to be able to help give them access to different ways that you can do that virtually, and making sure that they have some tools and ideas, because it is very different. Utilizing Canvas, talked about that. K2 using Seesaw. We very much have promoted and issued guidance in terms of daily schedules being posted on Canvas, going over those, especially at the elementary level in the morning during their morning meetings, going over what the plan for the day is going to be, and making sure that that is clear to students and then the family members who may be assisting with their learning. Daily attendance, that is something that was definitely different than in the spring. We focused more on the engagement in the spring, and that's still going to be a focus in making sure our students are engaged as much as possible, but also attendance will be taken during those morning meetings and those afternoon meeting times, and any of the other, just making sure the students are all still there with them as they're checking in with them through live Google Meets throughout the day, and then communicating home if they're seeing a kid not able to attend a certain time and trying to make those connections with home to see what might be going on there. But daily attendance will be taken. We've also asked that video tutorials for students and families to set that stage for the first day, utilizing Screencastify, showing the students and the parents what the students need to access on the first day, how they will get to it, what those Canvas pages will look like, try to hit the ground running right off the bat so that some of those things are there so parents can help out, get those kids on the computers, and have that information to be able to help facilitate that. And then, as always, continue to provide that high-quality feedback. And talking with numerous amount of teachers, this is the thing from spring that I hear the most about is just the importance and the value that was found in giving that high-quality feedback and the different tools that they used to be able to do that, whether it was either through live one-on-one interaction or different tools that they learned from their peers or that they discovered or were provided for them through different instructional coaching and PD opportunities. So high-quality feedback to let students know where they're at, what we can do to improve and make those adjustments. And very much in giving guidance in terms of providing synchronous live as well as asynchronous independent learning opportunities for students to showcase what they've learned, but also going back to that relationship piece, having those live, those lessons, chance for students to interact, ask questions, and having a little bit of both of those times as a mix so that students can listen and then try to apply that at home as well, and then come back and ask questions.
So Megan, some of our teachers are going to be broadcasting live?
Through Google Meet. Yes. Yep. That's the platform that we are utilizing and currently looking into G Suite Enterprise as well, in terms of that is allowing September 30th, it'll expire what all the capabilities have been previously, like recording lessons and some security features. And they're also updating it so that breakout rooms, so teachers through Google Meet, so a live session, they can put students into groups like they might in the classroom, and they can do little group projects or discussions, like 4 students at a time in their own virtual room, and then they can bring them all back to the classroom together. So trying to help facilitate some of those things that would normally happen in the classroom, how do we do that virtually so that we can still have those collaborative efforts and try to, resemble the classroom as much as possible.
And many teachers did a fine job of that in the spring as well with the Google Meets, and it was a very good opportunity, I think, for our students who participated in that.
Yep. All right. Students, again, like we talked about before, that Chromebook, GoGuardian, teachers being able to help facilitate that learning through that GoGuardian. It's not only like a monitoring tool for what is going on the Chromebook, but they can also, within their class, share something that they want every student to have up on their Chromebook right now. Or they can get on and help a student access what they need to access. So that's that part. Prepare by watching that teacher welcome video that we discussed a few minutes ago. And then be ready to learn. Attend those sessions for live instruction. Engage in those assignments, activities, assessments. Asking questions, letting the teacher know if they need help, keeping communication open. Elementary students, we have been working, monitoring those class sizes and what teachers and working with the special sections, and we have it worked out. Elementary teachers will have a Dunlap remote teacher. Middle school students have a Dunlap, mostly have Dunlap remote teachers. There are a few non-core courses that Needing Ingenuity, and by non-core, maybe a PE section or an Explore section, where we're not able to offer that. But all efforts have been made to make sure that we can get a Dunlap teacher for those sections. And then for the high school, as I was adding up things today and working with Scott Adrian and the counseling department at the high school, high school students, looking at, when we're adding up, about 82 courses taught by DHS teachers, and any courses with low enrollment. We went with the guidance from the document, anything under 15, and sometimes we could make things work, but the ones that were like 8 students, 9 students, things of that nature. Looking at, for those students individually, is Edgenuity the best option for them? Is Illinois Virtual School? Or is an ICC dual credit path? And the counselors at the high school, Scott Adrian can attest to, they've been calling and emailing and trying to get a hold of the families to help work out those schedules and try and work with each student individually since the master has been done. They have been just hitting the ground running and working nights, weekends, and they have been doing a tremendous job trying to communicate with families and make this work. All right. Yes?
I just want to say, first of all, I think that the job that you guys have done and all that scheduling and rescheduling is just tremendous, so thank you to everybody for doing that. I was just wondering, and I've heard many great comments from people, so they all appreciate it, but just wondering how many courses are currently, or how many individual classes are not able to be taught by EHS teachers? So how many are there that will be Edgenuity, IBS, or ICC, except for PE, which I know is a bunch? Do you know? Or?
Yeah, so the numbers I was looking at, it was, I don't remember the exact number, but it was in the 40s in terms of those. It was, so it's your, the courses that, and a lot of them are electives. There are some core classes that could be in there, but for the most part, they are elective-based classes, like Intro to Family Consumer Science. Some of our foreign language courses are in there.
Lots of levels. So if you look at this, the easiest way, I think, for people who don't do it every day to think about it, if you take all 80 teachers and line them down the side, and you put 6 or 7 classes across for each teacher, you do the math, it's about 500 little tiles.
Okay.
Well, the remote classes displaced 80 of those tiles the kids had already planned to have classes on. Now we put those 80 remote tiles in there, and there's a lot of things left out there. But those courses that are left out there, those courses that have 10 or less typically.
Yeah.
We were able to salvage and do some creative scheduling. Some of them, and God bless our teachers for willing to take on some of these classes, like let's say a Spanish 5 and a Spanish 4 PAP, put those classes together remotely and do some things to salvage those, what we call capstone classes. Some of our science departments took on an overload so that Mr. Baker could offer AP chemistry to 12 kids, and I think that's grown a little bit today because now kids know they can offer remotely, so they're going to go remotely. But there's been a lot of maneuvering like that, but unfortunately what you're going to hear is, my kids couldn't get this class. Well, there's only 6 kids there now. Then we shuffled everything, we couldn't offer it. So that's where that's been the hardest thing, because quite honestly, I'm a little biased, but I think that the master schedule we had in June was the best it had ever been. And honestly, Megan did that one with Ashley Senior and Claire Reeves, our registrar, and that quarantine time gave them an extra opportunity to go in and just fine-tune the littlest thing, climate co-teacher, prep, it was perfect. But then when you schedule it now, it's just changing everything. So I'm just preparing you, you're going to get people saying, well, I can't get this now, and believe me, it's not for lack of trying. We've tried everything. And I'm super proud of the people who have agreed to take the remote classes and do that. Like 80 of them, though, is a lot. So it's going to take a little bit more work. We're still ironing it out, but we're a lot further ahead than we thought we'd be.
We were, and I know most of them are elective, but I've seen like physics and some algebra and some geometry. So some English, some of the core classes are in there too, because you can't do that for everyone. And so one thing I was thinking, to sort of have more support, community support for these students on Ingenuity who they're not really connected to the teachers because they're on Ingenuity. I was just kind of reaching out and talking if we could have, like, how they have the honor students, the National Honor Society?
Like tutors and
yeah, that
stuff
they
that nature.
now can get, they have to have so many hours of volunteer, and they've done that in the school before, and would it be a good thing that they could reach out to these students and not only provide tutor, but then you're getting more interaction between the remote people and the people in school. And I think a lot of students now don't have a lot of opportunities to volunteer. because they've been stuck at home. And I was thinking that would be good, and I think there's been talk of maybe retired teachers, and just had
Our
some
NHS sponsors, Ms. Rita and Mr. Pat will work on that when they get back. Typically, we don't get the whole tutoring structure set up, so 3 or 4 weeks into the school year just because of all the things going on. So I expect something to come up in 2 or 3 weeks where they've got something where we take advantage of the students' homeroom period or the study hall or the free time where they can, because it's advantageous to those members as well, so they can get their hours, so they want to do it. And that will give them an online platform to do that. It just takes a couple weeks to get that set up.
Okay, so you think it could be online somehow?
Oh, yeah,
We're gonna have
They could be
post-
virtual. The Illinois Retired Teachers Association also has put a call out for teachers to volunteer remotely. The only significant catch there may be that the remote part, the technology part might be a little difficult for some of them, but I do know that they've been taking names and asking for volunteers as well, so that might be an additional resource.
Even if it's a phone call, a lot of this you can.
Sure.
do.
Or FaceTime.
Thank you for some of, you've been sort of collaborating with.
Yeah, absolutely.
What kind of ideas to help the students?
Absolutely.
Consideration, I'm sure.
Nope, okay. Just some different, just share, I'm not going to go through all of this with you, but just some guidance that we've been sharing with our teachers in terms of how they can start to think about remote lesson designing, trying to just continually refine and provide opportunities for us to all better our craft. But again, setting the stage like we talked about before, format, those Google Meets, those live sessions, some may be previously recorded videos. Where our teachers use, for example, Screencastify, and they record a math lesson so that the students can watch it. They can provide a chance to be live, to answer questions, for students to work on their assignments and their homework portion of it, and they can still have that fluid class dynamic. So setting the stage, the content, the collaboration, synthesizing their learning, all those different aspects. So trying to make sure, kind of give the full picture. And then I just have some examples. This is just a model, a sample, to give an idea of an elementary schedule for our remote. Again, we have 24 elementary remote teachers, and just trying to help them break up their day on what this could look like. And you can see in there we have the ELA, we have the math, we have their science, their social studies time. We discussed last night with the elementary teachers having a consistent lunchtime across the district for elementary, especially for parents who have kids in multiple grade levels and things like that, so they're not perhaps preparing lunch or trying to do that lunch for different times for different classrooms. And so that time was selected as 11:45 to 12:15. Obviously, if a kid wants a snack at any point during the day, they can of course do that, but designating that lunchtime just to help out with the families at home as much as possible. And that came from the teachers very much wanting to, that's something I think that they learned or saw during the spring, and that is something that we could help out the families as much as we can. So you'll also see in here student support time. This is where we've been working, and the building principals at the elementary level have been working since class lists are starting to come into shape with their current numbers, is making sure those interventions, those IEP minutes, the ESL minutes, and those sorts of things, those one-on-one times for services, where best will they fit during the day. And it will look different based on the building. It'll look different based on the teacher and the special ed teacher or services that might be needed. But they are working with their buildings to have basically an in-class intervention block time and a remote intervention block time for the different buildings, and then working through that to make sure all of those needs are being met. Alyssa has been meeting with her teams very much so this week, a lot of her different teams this week and last week, making sure that all those services are set up for our special ed population who is remote. So that's just a sample. And again, you mentioned about collaboration time, just looking to keep continuity between the curriculum in the morning and the afternoon. They can use that time as well to either collaborate and stay with their grade level teams to make sure they're being consistent, and also to collaborate virtually with other remote teachers. Sample secondary block. I know in our meetings where we had for curriculum, and we talked a lot about the block and that being a different structure. This is not only for remote, but also for in-person, just breaking that down, giving guidance. So just showing you here what we're giving, again, this is just a model, a sample, just different guidance that we are working on to give our teachers.
They definitely won't be sitting and doing the same thing or listening to a lecture for 96 minutes. That's
Exactly,
the whole big takeaway there.
So this has all been given to the teachers. I know it's kind of small up there, but just kind of breaking it down. It's not going to look this way for every classroom. Again, just a sample, a model of how we can break down that 96 minutes when we've all been used to that 43 or those 49 minutes, depending on the level and building. Special education, I've mentioned this a few times, but we just want to make sure that this is something that we've been really focusing on as this comes into shape, because we have our remote special ed students and then we have our in-person, making sure we're meeting the needs of both. And Alyssa has worked out that we have the ability at the elementary level, there's a remote-only life skills teacher, because just with the numbers, so one will be with the in-person kids, and then we have one designated for the remote students in that. The resource teachers available for remote instruction, cross-categorical, so this is more so like secondary level, but we have some co-taught classes for students that our students are out for their classes and they might need some extra support, so we're making sure that that is being able to be provided still to the students in a remote setting. Homeschool case managers, so this isn't like homeschool students, this is the homeschool of the student, making sure that those case managers, they are still managing those IEPs, making sure that all those needs are getting met for those families, for those students. And then like we talked about before, student support blocks at the elementary level, they're built in IEP, ESL, for social emotional learning time, RTI. At the secondary level, they have the homeroom block at the high school specifically for students who maybe had incompletes last spring, a chance to get those made up, and then also extra intervention time for ESL and IEP students as needed. And then also time for students if they have questions in any of their classes. If a teacher, they could set up a time or do it virtually with a teacher to help get the assistance they need during that homeroom time. So that's what we have now. That's what we're working on for remote learning. There's a lot of very much similarities to that if we were to go to phase 3 for the state of Illinois or phase 1 or 2. The big difference is that we are looking at, if we were to go to phase 3 or phase 1 and 2, we have up here. The difference with phase 3, special education students would be prioritized to receive in-person instruction. So under the guidance for phase 3, 10-person maximums in that plan, but the priority is given if special ed students need to come in for services or interventions or time, that would be prioritized. All other students would be engaging remotely under phase 3. And then depending on the length, we've talked about this has come up quite a bit, there's a difference between if we're out remotely for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, versus a whole semester or a whole school year. Looking at those rosters, a lot of work has been done through those master schedules and those class lists, and there is differences between the number of kids in those class lists from remote sections to in-person sections. And some of those remote sections are larger than those in-person sections, but that would need to be something that would need to be looked at.
Question here. So if a student starts off remote learning, and then we go to phase 3 and our school's closed, then will they stay with their remote class, or will they be put back in their regular class?
So the goal, again, that's going to depend on the length. Like if we go 2 or 3 weeks, we're just doing remote, we're definitely going to stay. The goal is those relationships are important, the teacher and that student, they make those connections are important, but we would want to examine longevity if we are going full remote, because we could have some teachers with remote section of 30 and then some teachers with a remote section of 17. Because some of those in-person sections with students going remote, some of those remote sections are in around 30, 32, 33. And then we have some in-person sections that are at 17, some that are at 24, some that are at 28, some that are at 30. But balancing those out would maybe be something we would explore. I'm not saying that we would, I'm not saying that we wouldn't at this time, but it would at least be something that potentially to explore, especially if it was going to be for the rest of the year or a long-term thing to help. So those students could get some extra support and there's a difference if a teacher has 17 versus 35 or 34 students.
And I had a question with when you say special ed for phase 3,
Yes.
does that include the 504 students or does it not?
I know the guidance, and Alyssa, I don't know if you have any specific for that. I know in the plan through ISB, it mentions students who are not in the general education population.
We could definitely talk about that. We got to that. The guidance is just for IEPs. IEPs are the main priority.
So would the 504s just need to make appointments or like, what would they,
It would be the same
They
as
would be
if,
getting their accommodations and modifications during remote learning.
at their home, is what you're,
They would be provided with those remote learning teachers. They would know that their accommodations and modifications are, and they would be providing those.
okay.
And I know that there's a big concern about cheating in the spring, that, you know, it's really easy for students to cheat. And I was wondering if you've done any research on being able to purchase those programs that where the teacher or a remote monitor is watching the student while they're taking a test and seeing if they're cheating. They're doing that at colleges. I think I'm sure it's an extra cost, but I'm not sure that it's that expensive. So I just wondered if we had or could we look into that, especially if we have to go all remote again.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely look into that. The big things we've been focusing on for assessment for the remote learning environment currently are the authentic assessments and working through what those can look like. So those are more individual assessments that the students are creating, not necessarily as many like multiple choice type options and things. So looking at what ways we can do that. And also, how do we utilize GoGuardian and our lockdown browsers to the best of our ability that we do have available to us, is exploring those avenues and options. But we could look into what some of those others would look like, just to know what that would be. So those are some of those avenues. On that Institute Day I mentioned before, September 4th, also looking at doing assessment in the remote learning environment. We have an assessment guy that Matt and I have seen last winter who did a very nice job. And his assessment is kind of his thing. And so trying to do kind of a remote PD package on that day for our teachers to be able to help our students the best that they can. So that is what we have. Any questions?
I have a few. So how many, I guess, I know there's been concern from the community, if a teacher has a medical problem, then those documented, is this correct? Then they are not teaching in the school. Is that correct?
If teachers have a documented underlying medical condition that's gone through Damon and the HR process, and they are a remote teacher, they are teaching from home. Any remote teachers who are needed for that remote section will be teaching from their classrooms.
Okay. Is there like a great number, or that they're still going to work, I guess?
They're still going to work, yes,
Okay.
just from their home. And there is not a great number. It's not very many. There are a few
24?
that,
Is it 24, is that what you said?
No, it's
I said
not.
there would be 24
It's like,
remote teachers.
there's 2 at the high school level. I don't remember them.
So
It's very few at each level.
24 filled out the survey and indicated that they would be remote because of a medical condition. But then
Okay.
when Mr. Hackett reached out to those individuals and put it out, we need the documentation.
I see.
I believe you had 10, Mr. Hackett? 10.
24 requests, 10 documented,
There are
okay.
more remote teachers because there's some that don't have medical issues because we had more students who wanted remote. than
We
teachers.
needed more remote teachers than had a document.
So those are the ones that are in the school.
Correct.
And they volunteered.
yes.
They put on, when we sent out the staff survey, they were ones who indicated that if we did need a remote section, that they would be willing.
And if a teacher, I mean, I know there's also fear, bona fide, with this. So if they didn't want, if you don't want to teach, could they use their medical and their vacation and then take a leave or something? Or has that even occurred?
I didn't hear your question.
That's an HR question?
Yeah, I don't,
that's-
Okay.
we can follow up with that later.
Okay. I mean, okay.
Any other questions?
Right.
To answer your question about what they're doing, the 2 teachers that we have full schedules that they're responsible for
At home.
online. Yeah,
different classes
Yeah,
that
we
they
have,
were teaching. It's,
some of them have, like, what she said, perhaps 6 different classes to prepare for. So in a lot of ways, it's a lot more work, because they've been out of the building teacher for a department, so they're picking up all the remote classes for that department. So it's challenging.
Well, I just want to say thank you, because I think first, when you talked about how many remote that would be teachers, the first time I saw numbers, I think it was like 50. I thought, wow, that's really great. And now it's 80 something.
And a lot of that 80 has been efforts to, again, try and, for some of our applied, our practical, our resource classes, making sure that we can get those also offered, so for our students remotely and in person through that co-teaching environment.
So what she's saying, the practical and the applied courses are some of our entry-level courses where students struggle with that content. And those classes are inherently small anyway.
Okay.
Well, then when you go to one here and you have one out, you got very small numbers. This really wouldn't justify having a remote class for 5 or 6. But some of our teachers have stepped up and said, I don't want those kids who have trouble learning to not have our resources. So they are combining some courses. And let's be honest, when we went to this full-time schedule, teachers were upset. But the very next day, they got in the room and they said, I'm not letting those kids go to ingenuity. I want to offer remote. I don't want those kids to not have AP Chem. Let's figure out a way to do that. And so-and-so will take it over. So they just banded together to have that happen. That's why that class list of remote classes went from 55 to 80.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, they were sending Scott and I videos of how they thought they could make it work and coming up. I mean, they did a great job advocating for what's best for their students.
I just like to shout out for those counselors.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They are really working to try to help students figure it out.
Well, Dr. Adrian isn't the type of person that'll do it, that's going to stand up and toot his own horn. But and all the administrators have done a great job redoing their schedules, but he said, let's be honest. The high school was the big animal, because it's the most complex with the most students. And to get that done, and I was riding a little bit, but not much. I mean, he just took the bull by the horns and got it done. Him and his staff. It wasn't just Scott. He had a lot of people involved. We're talking nights, weekends, weekend nights, unbelievable hours. You were here at Sunday until what, 9, 10 o'clock? So,
I think all the administrators, all the teachers have been working very hard, and I think they deserve a nice. All right.
Thanks, Matt. Megan.
Do you have more with your report?
Very professional.
You finished?
Yes, I'm just trying to, it's a
Thank
slow
you.
minimizing process.
Yes, thank you. None of us are online. We can't get online here either. Thank you so much for the time, the effort. I know it's been long days. We greatly appreciate it. This concludes the information discussion items. The board will now move on to the consent agenda. Are there any questions or discussions regarding the items on the consent agenda? Could I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mrs. Holthauser, thank you. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Mrs. Henry, any discussion? Roll call vote.
Holzhauser?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
Disharum?
Aye.
Bluth?
Aye.
Humbles?
Aye.
Wisdom?
Aye.
Motion carried. The board will now move on to the action items. The bill lists the treasurer's report and the district investment report, including the board packet. Are there any questions?
I do have one, Abby.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think maybe, Damon, you can talk to this about the furniture invoice that was in there, as well as I believe it was the white noise.
Yeah, the furniture and all the other.
It was white noise. It was both from the same supplier.
Yeah, those checks will be cut because they're on the bill list, but they won't be mailed until the time comes that they need.
Until, I didn't hear that.
Until it's ready to be sent out and paid, they won't be mailed.
Okay. Until we receive the material for the furniture. Okay, just to let everyone know, there's 2 bills on there for the furniture and the white noise in the amount of $89,900. So we're going to, I don't know, do we need to?
you can leave them on there. We're just going to hold it. We
You're just
won't
gonna hold
release
the
the
checks.
payment until we have sign off that those punch ticket
Is
items
that
are
going to come through
complete.
Teresa as the chairman of that committee?
Yeah, Teresa and
That'll be
myself can
perfect.
talk about that.
Okay.
I have another modification to the bill. Of course, last board meeting, I pulled off a legal bill to Hodges Luigi, and we worked with them and got that resolved, so I think it needs to be added. Damon, I don't believe it's on there right now, but we need to add.
Can you give me the amount?
Yeah, it's $4,000.
$4,000.
Yes, to Hodges Louise, so that'll be in addition.
Thank you for your help with that, too.
Sure.
And I just have a question on the Edgenuity and the purchase of that. Are we approving that when we pay the bills, or is that something we have to approve individually? Do you know what I mean?
That's part of the bill because it's a purchase service.
Okay.
And for the Ingenuity, it's 44,000, and that's for the year, correct?
Correct.
If by some miracle, like next year, everything's good, do you get a refund, or is it kind of just like it's done?
It's a site license.
So it lasts the whole year?
It's a yearly site license.
Okay.
So it's good for this year, but if we want to use it next year, we'll have to re-up the license. It's not forever. It's a
for the
yearly license.
Okay, so it's for the school year?
Correct.
Okay, so it's kind of use it or lose it?
Correct.
Okay.
May I have a motion to approve payment of bills?
I move to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $3,014,389.83.
Thank you, Ms. Toll.
Minus-
Second, please.
Wait.
Hold on.
With the,
With the addition
With
of
the addition
Hodges
of
and
the
Louise.
legal bill
Right.
to Hodges Louise for $4,000.
With the addition of the legal bill, Hodges and Louise for $4,000.
second.
Thank you, Mrs. Disharum. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Holzhauser?
Aye.
Disharum?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
Bluth?
Aye.
Wisdom?
Aye.
Humbles? Aye. Information regarding property tax appeals is included in the board packet. Are there any questions? Could I please have a motion to approve the property tax appeals?
I'll move to approve the property tax appeals as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote. Wisdom?
Aye.
Holzhauser?
Aye.
Humbles? Aye. Henry?
Aye.
Disharum?
Aye.
Bluth?
Aye.
Information is included in the board packet regarding the 2021 tentative budget. Are there any questions?
I just wanted to talk a little bit, it's very concerning, of course, the deficit. And I know we've also been super, super busy with all this, planning. So I know we've had to put on hold the plans for looking at, things that we might want to cut, next year. And so I just wanted to, express my concern that when we can, we need to get back to that and looking at, how we can fix our budget and our plans for spending so that we don't have structural overspending. So,
The efficiencies that we discussed, Mr. Hackett has built into this budget for the current year, but you're right, some of that long-term that we were talking about has kind of been put on the back burner as of late.
Right.
So I think that
so
is
when
fine.
do you think we can get back to that?
Oh, probably when things calm down next July.
I
in the
think
next month or
at
two.
the finance meeting, we could meet and discuss issues for next school year as opposed to this particular school year. I think Teresa and I kind of discussed that.
One thing that we did discuss the board discussed was the track and the turf at the football field. And the original discussion was we were looking to potentially do that this year, and the construction timelines would be that we would start that in the winter and continue into the spring, and then we could have that done by track, and the track kids could use it. Well, now football has been pushed back till spring, so we can't really do anything with that because we can't lose our football field, because if they have it in the spring, we need the field. Plus, we're not using it right now anyway, so I had Mr. Hackett remove that. Not that he had included it in the first place, but we discussed it, and I said, I don't see a need to include that in the budget right now, because it's not going to happen this year anyway.
Right,
So,
and I guess what I'm concerned
that's
about
that long-term we need to
It's not
discuss.
the one-time things, but getting a look at our structural spending and projections.
Very good.
Yep.
May I please have a motion to approve the budget?
I move to approve the FY21 tentative budget as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Olshauser,
Aye.
Wisdom,
Aye.
Humbles,
No.
Henry,
Aye.
Disharum,
Aye.
Blue.
Motion carries. Approval of the transportation contract for Clubs of River City. Information is included in the board packet regarding transportation agreement for the Clubs of River City. Are there any questions? May I please have a motion to approve the transportation contract?
I move to approve the transportation contract for the clubs at River City as presented.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Mrs. Disharum, Mrs. Henry, any discussion? Roll call vote.
Disharum,
Aye.
Henry,
Aye.
Olshauser,
Aye.
Humbles,
Aye.
Wisdom,
Aye.
Blue.
Information is included in the board packet regarding the memorandum of understanding. Are there any questions? May I please have a motion to approve the memorandum?
I'll move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Dunlap CUSD number 323 Board of Education and the Dunlap Education Association as presented.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Wisdom, Mrs. Disharum, any discussion? Roll call vote.
Wisdom,
Aye.
Disharum,
Aye.
Henry,
Aye.
Olshauser,
Aye.
Humbles,
Aye.
Blue.
Motion carried. Information is included in the board packet regarding increase of substitute pay. Are there any questions?
I guess I just have a question. I fully support this. I'm just wondering, do you think it's enough? Do you think that, do we ever have problems where we can't get somebody for a half day? I know that your recommendation was, okay, it's hard to get people for an hour because we're only paying for an hour, but do we also have trouble getting people for a half day because it's only a half day pay? It used to be in our district before you were here that we paid a full day for a half day.
Are you talking about substitutes?
Substitutes, yes.
We have trouble getting substitutes for any amount of time,
Right.
whether it be a half or a full.
Yeah.
So I guess the answer is yes.
I'm just wondering, should we go back to that where we pay a full day for a half day?
I wouldn't suggest that at this
Okay.
time.
Okay.
Potentially to consider in the future. To me, that's not the big
The big
issue.
Okay.
We just need full-time subs. We don't use half-time subs as much as we need full-time people.
Okay. And is there any advantage to increasing it even higher than this?
Yeah, I guess are we competitive with our?
We are competitive in the area, the rate that is being proposed to increase. And I'm hoping that with the Peoria Public Schools' decision to go fully remote, that we might be able to get some of those people to come our way since they won't be needing the substitute teachers because of their remote plan. That's the hope.
If you have a recommendation in the future that you think we should increase, you'll let us know.
Correct.
And are we able to do some advertising? I've seen District 150 on their website. They've got some kind of big ads.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree. I was wondering if we could.
Well, when we put information out to parents in our survey, I know that doesn't go out to the general community. We had 70-something parents respond that they would be interested in substituting. Jenny contacted every one of those people individually by email, giving them the step-by-step instructions. This is what you need to do to get this done.
Oh, good.
Now, that labor hasn't really developed into a larger pool of candidates, so to speak, yet. But hopefully, maybe that'll pay dividends as time goes on.
Is it possible to have a day where we ask the ROE to come out, do fingerprinting, and be at one of our schools to fill out the form and do the fingerprinting?
No, I think you have to be on their site to do the fingerprinting with their individual. I don't think they would come out. I can ask, but
We can ask. We can ask.
But I think that's a
I
good
would be
idea
doubtful.
to do a Facebook post
Yeah, or
that then people can share.
Okay.
So that it gets to beyond our parents.
And even not just to be on the website. I mean, because District 150 kind of has this big splashy thing.
But it's also on Facebook too.
Okay, yeah, just to get, sometimes one spouse might not communicate to the other, and there might be more people on
Well, I've done radio ads for bus drivers before as well, so maybe we can do something with that too.
Okay.
Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the increase?
I move to approve the hiring of, I move to approve the increase in substitute pay as presented.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Hayman? Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Disharum.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Bluth.
Aye.
Olshauser.
Aye.
Humbles.
Aye.
Wisdom.
Aye.
Motion carried. Information is included in the board packet regarding the approval of hiring temporary substitute and support staff. Are there any questions?
I just have a question. If we should happen to get shut down at some point, we'll still have positions and things for these substitutes to do, even remotely.
Potentially, but the way they're advertised as temporary subs, we would not be required to keep them
All
on
right.
payroll if we move to remote.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the temporary staff?
I move to approve the hiring of temporary substitute and support staff as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. That was Ms. Henry, Mr. Wisdom. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Henry.
Aye.
Wisdom.
Aye.
Humbles.
Aye.
Olshauser.
Aye.
Disharum.
Aye.
Bluth.
Aye.
Motion carried. This concludes the action item portion of the meeting. May I please have a motion to adjourn to closed session?
I move to adjourn to closed session for the following purposes as stated in the Open Meetings Act: the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, student disciplinary cases, collective negotiating matters, discussions of minutes of meetings lawfully closed, purchase or lease of real property, security procedures, and litigation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Olshauser.
Aye.
Wisdom.
Aye.
Humbles.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Disharum. Bluth.
Aye.
Motion carried. Time is 7:20.